Hello everyone, and welcome back to another week in gaming news. It's pretty light news week here at the end of the year, but the first story on the agenda today is the co-creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, Yuji Naka, has been indicted on charges, two different accounts of insider trading. So if we look here at the top of this Destructoid article, former Sega veteran Yuji Naka has been formally indicted following an arrest earlier this month. So if we look here, there's these two accounts. He was arrested under suspicion of purchasing stock in Japanese studio Aiming right before Square announced that the developer was working on a new title in the Dragon Quest series, Dragon Quest Tact. And the second arrest here, the Sonic the Hedgehog co-creator had purchased 120,000 shares in developer A-Team ahead of the announcement that said studio would be producing mobile release Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. And it even goes on to say that these shares, that's a lot of shares, 120,000. Like if you go try to buy 120,000 shares of something and it will cost a pretty penny, and those shares almost equaling $1 million USD. So we'll follow this story throughout 2023. Obviously, this won't be closed here anytime soon. This is just the indictment and the charges, but it's a shame. I mean, we talk about greed, I guess, every week, but that's really what insider trading is. You have information that no one else has, so you buy a bunch of stock because you know it's going to go up after a potentially beneficial announcement, a big announcement, and there you go. So we'll see if these turn into anything. Square Enix, his former employer, did say that they are cooperating fully with the commission that is in charge of this. And besides co-creating Sonic, he also was the director of Balan Wonderworld that came out last year. Fun fact. So yep, we'll keep following this. It's a bad thing. Like, just stop being greedy. But we'll see what happens. All right. A little more news on Microsoft Activision. It's going to be a thing for a while, but I kind of enjoyed this article. This is from Eurogamer, and so we've been talking a lot about how a lot of this FTC Microsoft Activision acquisition is coming down to Call of Duty and maybe not appearing on Sony or other platforms. And so Microsoft hit back and said, well, we're not the only ones who do it, right? Sony definitely is doing it. They are claiming, so this is all from their paperwork in this case. So they hit back at Sony's objection to its planned acquisition of Activision Blizzard by revealing that third-party games like Bloodborne, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy XVI, and Silent Hill 2 Remake are party to exclusion agreements that will prevent those games from coming to Xbox consoles. And directly from their paperwork, it is stating that Sony has also entered into arrangements with third-party publishers, which require the exclusion of Xbox from the set of platforms these publishers can distribute their games on. So is that true? Is there actually like a contractual requirement that Sony has made that these publishers, and the article lists From Software, Square Enix, and Konami, so some pretty heavy hitters there. So yeah, they're claiming that Sony's requiring them to exclude Xbox, which, if that is true, then I would say the Call of Duty complaint from Sony, again, it's just two big corporations bickering. It's interesting, but it's just going to keep happening. But I did think it's kind of interesting of them to come out and be like, yeah, they are doing the same thing with also large games. So just a little more. So last week, going to the next article, but same topic. Last week, we talked about how Microsoft was claiming that it was unconstitutional somehow, but there wasn't much detail at the time. So here's an article from Destructoid. Yes, Destructoid. And this quote is from Microsoft document. These proceedings are invalid because the structure of the Commission as an independent agency that wields significant executive power and the associated constraints on removal of the commissioners and other Commission officials violates Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution and the separation of powers. Okay, that's a lot. I'm more concerned with this second sentence. I think I could break this one down a little better. I'm not sure. The structure of these administrative proceedings in which the Commission both initiates and finally adjudicates the complaint against Microsoft violates Microsoft's Fifth Amendment due process right to adjudication before a neutral arbiter. So at first, when I read this the first 3 times, I didn't understand all of it. I have zero law experience. I coached mock trial for 4 years, but that was more just filling out forms and driving the van. So yeah, very little knowledge here. But the second sentence here, I kind of see where they're coming from a bit. From what I understand, they're kind of saying the person who initiates. So I guess in my mind, I'm thinking the cop that arrests me should not also then be the judge who sentences me, kind of thing, or who makes the final decision whether I'm guilty or not. Is what it seems this is saying. I get that. But then on the other hand, this isn't quite what's going on. The FTC, this is their job, is to like look at monopolies and things and break them apart. I equate it more with like the IRS. If the IRS thinks I've made a mistake on my taxes, I just have to correct the mistake. I don't get to go to a third party. I guess maybe you could take it to court. There's probably a way. I mean, this is America. You can take anything to court, but that's not really how it works. The final decision is the commission or the reserve whose job it is to handle that sort of thing. So again, I think they're kind of trying anything they can because this is a huge acquisition, of course. So that is it for the Microsoft Activision segment today. And that's actually it for today. So usually we do new releases, but it's the end of the year and I couldn't find any on the docket. Doesn't mean there aren't any. I just couldn't find any. So we'll see what comes out in January. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment below if you wish, and have yourselves a very happy new year.